Speaking more about the Real Madrid one, Francesco, which players stood out to you in particular from yesterday's game? Because I found a hard time finding like a man of the match because everyone did their jobs to such effect that Barcelona destroyed Madrid.
Yeah, so I can tell you what the Catalan radio said, and this is not just Catalunya Radio, but also RAC-U, and I've been reading Mundo Deportivo and Sport. So they seem to think that Aubameyang and Eric Garcia were the two standout players. Obviously, Aubameyang speaks for himself. He's scored, I think it's 8 goals in 8 matches. And he's doing fantastically well, not just finding the spaces. And, people say finding the space. Of course, he finds the space, but everyone else does. It's just whether he gets assisted into the space that he's looking for, because people like Dembele, Adama, even Ferran, they don't cross the ball into the box if they don't think that the guy there is going to get it. So those spaces have always been there, and other players may have exploited them. But the fact that they are finding Aubameyang is meaning that there are more and more crosses and not just from the side, but obviously through the middle as well, connections with him. So he's attracting that, and he's clearly making a remarkable difference. I think that Eric Garcia has had a lot of acclamation from all different Catalan and Spanish and beyond channels. And obviously, he's fantastic on the ball. I think that he's an upgrade on Araujo, and that's the reason why Guardiola used to trust him at Manchester City and why Xavi is trusting him now at Barça. I've been hearing Xavi all season, and this is what I see on the pitch as well, about the fact that both Piqué and Eric Garcia are by far the best defenders at doing what I'm going to say now, which is breaking through that first line of pressure. So when Eric has the ball, normally the striker or maybe the winger from the other team, they go to press him. And the key difference between Araujo and Eric Garcia is that Eric conducts the ball forward until he attracts one of those players. And then when he passes the ball, which is normally to the side, but more and more often lately, Piqué does it very often, but Eric is doing it more as well. They cross the ball across the pitch towards the other side. And when you have beaten the player that is coming to you, and then with the pass you beat another one, then you're creating an advantage, which normally is in what Xavi is calling the cuadrados, the squares in the middle, but it can also free up space from the side. So I think that's the main reason why Eric has been starting games lately. But also what we saw against Madrid is that he was a lot stronger defensively. I don't think he's the strongest or the fastest, but he's certainly strong and fast enough to stop Real Madrid yesterday. I mean, if Karim Benzema had been playing, we would probably be talking about a different story. But against the Real Madrid that he was faced yesterday, he was certainly a great player. But for me...
Yeah, let me respond to Eric Garcia, and then we'll get your answer. So I was kind of, again, hedging my bet on Eric Garcia because I didn't want to, not to say come off on too biased, but I wanted to make sure that, I want him to be good more, I think, than other people did, because I stood in his corner from the beginning. And so I don't want to push that, but I think Eric Garcia is the right answer, actually, for the man of the match. If that is what Catalan radio was saying. His stats yesterday: 11 balls recovered. He was never dribble past, as you mentioned. He was also the only Barca player perfect on the long balls. And he was the key yesterday to how Barcelona succeeded. And I had said before, again, I'll pat myself on the back on this one, that I said without Karim Benzema, Eric Garcia was going to start at left center back. And if Karim Benzema did start, I thought Araujo would start at left center back. Or sorry, Piqué would start at left center back. Araujo would be a right center back, and Dani Alves would start on the wing. And then it would be Araujo with the help for Vinicius Jr. to Alves out to the wing, and then Piqué would have to deal with Benzema. But without Benzema, Eric Garcia starts. And as you mentioned, not only did he dribble into that space, but it was the long passes and decisions he made. And this is the difference between Eric Garcia and Pedri. And I went on this whole Pedri thing in the last show of last week, previewing this match. Those guys make the right decisions more often than not. And those right decisions, where Eric Garcia yesterday, you could see it was on full display. Yes, he would switch the ball to Dembele, sure. He would also reset to Ter Stegen. He would reset to and recycle the ball to Jordi Alba. But his line breaking passes and understanding of who was the third man in that midfield was impeccable. And that is why Barcelona consistently found space off the foot of Eric Garcia delivering that first pass. It was Pedri who would attack whenever it was Modric who dropped in to defend, whenever he was caught out, and not being that false nine or whatever position you want to call Ancelotti putting him in. But it would be Pedri whenever he saw that it was Modric on him, would come into that space, and Eric Garcia would look for Pedri. Then Ancelotti seemed to get wise to that, switched Fede Valverde onto Pedri. So then who became the free man? Well, it became Frankie de Jong. And Frankie de Jong would pop up as the free man, as the third man runner when Busquets would come in, Casemiro or whoever, or Toni Kroos would try to step to Busquets, while Fede Valverde was trying to man mark Pedri. And that meant that de Jong was the free man. And it seemed like Eric Garcia every single time said, okay, Jordi Alba's the right pass. Okay, Pedri has Modric. There's that run. Let me find it at the right time. And then now the free man is de Jong. So that's going to be a line-breaking pass through the midfield to de Jong. Okay, actually, the midfield has been brought in because the fullbacks are a little tighter. That means that when my winger in Dembele is ready for that switch. And he just went through the progressions like an NFL quarterback, right? Just, line 1, line 2, line 2, line 3, line 4. And so for me, like, it's hard when a team wins 4-0 to say the man of the match was a center back. But I mean, this was a marquee Eric Garcia performance, an absolutely marquee performance from him. But if you have another argument to another man of the match, I am all ears because I'm ready to change my mind for a test.
Yeah, no, I don't think you will change your mind. I think that the two that we've mentioned, and certainly Eric, they're clearly the better ones. But I just want to give a shout out to Araujo as well.
He was going to be the next guy I was going to bring up. Funny you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So to me, he's arguably playing out of position. I mean, right back and center back on the right, it's not that different. But I think that the fact that he was able to pretty much make Vinicius Jr. just non-existent throughout the whole match, that was remarkable. I think that as much as we love Dani Alves, if Dani Alves starts that match against Vinicius, he would have been not necessarily eaten alive, but he would have had a lot more difficulties than Ronald had. I think that his stamina, his understanding of the game is to be commanded. And I just wanted to give him a shout out because, I know that I think it was Juste earlier last week said that, and Laporta mentioned it as well, that Xavi and Araujo, without mentioning them, they have to understand where they are and they have to basically adapt to the Barça structure in terms of salaries. I'm talking about when they renew the contract. Yes, I agree, but renewing Araujo is an absolute priority. You cannot get anywhere near the quality that he has, and obviously because he's already here, the understanding of the Barça system and the feeling of that he portrays in every match. You cannot find that on the market anywhere. So I think that renewing Araujo, I'm sure they will go into an economic agreement, but the guy is golden, and I think his potential is very, very high for years to come.
What I loved about him yesterday was that he did the job he was asked to do to perfection. That's why there's not much more that Ronald Araujo could have given you yesterday to arguably be the man of the match. Yeah, he scored the goal, but yeah, the defense on Vinicius Jr. completely shut Madrid down. Though I could argue for that case that Madrid, by not having Karim Benzema, by not having any kind of runner, they had no late runners into the box. They had no I guess they had no guy profiling as the main focus of the attack either. They had nobody there. And so even if Vinicius Jr. found some space, which he did occasionally, there was nothing he could do with the ball anyway. Because on the opposite side, Carvajal and Rodrigo, as we kind of switched to that flank, were just disastrous. And then when looking at the heat map, I didn't realize just how dangerous Jordi Alba had been. Like, I knew Jordi Alba was part of the system and played really well. I didn't realize how much on the ball he was. He actually, I think in the first half, was on the ball more than any other Barca player as far as time on the ball, touches. I don't think it was total passes, but anyway, the amount of impact that he had in the first half was unconscionable. And back to Araujo, like, he was asked to defend. Yeah, I mean, the header, again, he's not asked to do that, but he scored a header goal, really good finish. But behind Dembele, he was basically asked to get the ball to Dembele, or when Vinicius Jr. would go back to try to help on Dembele, move and dribble into that space yourself. And as far as breaking through lines with his passing, we know he doesn't do that well, but he's much better, that being Araujo, at dribbling into space. And I thought he did a great job of dribbling on that sideline and taking that space when it was given to him.
Yeah, and you can also flip that, because if Araujo is defending the way that he is, then Vinicius Jr. just needs one player. But if you had been a little bit softer, or if you had been Alves on a bad day, then you need Alves to push and try and defend, but then you need Eric Garcia behind to do the cobertura. And then you got two players out of position. If you recover the ball, that is two players that cannot work on the build-up, and that slows the defensive into attacking transitions down. So having Araujo help on the defensive perspective, without a shadow of a doubt, but also on the attacking, talking about the build-up in our own third.
Yeah, and now I want to switch to the opposite side of the field too, with Aubameyang, Ferran Torres, and Dembele. And that front three showed you, and not say about Dembele, I don't want to take him out of this. Of course, he gets the 2 assists. He was really important in the match. But Dembele we know exactly what we're getting from him. He is a known commodity. And to a point, Aubameyang kind of is as well. The first goal he scored was exactly like the one against Osasuna. So against Osasuna, in the match review, I just lambasted Osasuna's back line. I said, it cannot happen. You cannot let Dembele get to the touchline the way he did, as easy as he did. And then the Osasuna center back, I don't remember who it was, allowed Aubameyang to get inside positioning where he was still in front of the near post and just had that goal in easy, right? And against Real Madrid, Nacho, I guess he must have watched the Osasuna tape and then thrown it out and forgot about it, because he allowed Dembele to get right around him, which might happen anyway a few times a game. And it did. It's going to happen a few times. Dembele is just lightning. It's going to happen no matter what. But behind him, if you do not have some other center back who's on that near post, you're in trouble, because Dembele, especially if he gets to the goal line, is going to cross that one and it's going to be really dangerous. And for Aubameyang, the second time in a row, it wasn't Osasuna the center back. It was Eder Militao, who was supposed to be and has been a really good defender. David Alaba and Militao have been good this year. But from that opening tackle, do you remember it was like, I don't remember who he tackled. It was a minute or two into the game. Or no, 14 seconds. That's what it was. It was 14 seconds into the game. Militao fouled, was it Pedri or Busquets? It was somebody. And everyone's calling for a yellow card immediately, because it was probably a yellow if it was 5 minutes into the game instead of 14 seconds. And from that moment, it looked like Militao had lost the plot, right? It looked like he was not going to have his day, and he didn't. Getting outjumped by Araujo, getting burnt by Aubameyang on the near post. And then I think he had a lot of trouble in particular with the movement between Aubameyang and Ferran Torres, where Ferran Torres, because Carvajal was just, again, he was the worst player on the field today. Danny Carvajal he just didn't show up, which is great for Barcelona. Agreed. So Ferran Torres kept getting around him. I said Jordi Alba was on the ball constantly, and then Ferran Torres would cut in sometimes, and having Pedri as that left interior, he's just, again, so smart and so dangerous coming into the space. So Danny Carvajal was just stuck with these different options and ideas and say, oh, should I be trying to peel off on Alba, who's making the overlapping run? Should I try to stay with Ferran Torres, who's not going to beat me with the ball, but he's going to get in behind me with his legs? Or do I have to be concerned with my back left, because here comes Aubameyang barreling into that free space as the third man runner up the field? Or I've got Pedri with the ball coming at me, and am I going to step to him because Toni Kroos is over there taking a water break, and Casemiro is just looking for somebody in the stands to punch in a Barca jersey, right? And so I think Danny Carvajal was just put into a lot of bad positions, and that has a lot to do with the movement of Ferran Torres. He was everywhere he needed to be yesterday. I thought he was really, really, really good, and he's not going to get credit because of his movement for not scoring goals or whatever he's not doing or people aren't seeing. He's got.
But is he not? Because, I mean, and this is the danger with the modern era of people who pretend to watch football, but they don't really watch it. You know, if you watch the YouTube highlights, if there's an 8-minute highlight reel and Ferran Torres has missed 2 goals and hasn't scored one, then Ferran Torres is a failure. I mean,
his miss at the beginning of the second half was a disaster, right? That 1v1. But yeah, you said it. Like, this team could have won 7 or 8. I kept seeing this. That people saying this team could have won 7 or 8-0. I don't care. They won 4-0 against the Santiago Bernabeu. Just take it in. Just relax.
Exactly. And with Ferran, I'm not just talking about this particular match. I mean, in this particular match, pretty much every player excelled, and they carried each other through, and they made each other better. But Ferran gives you a lot, and he's been giving you a lot from the very beginning. I mean, granted, when he started playing, and Xavi has done this, he's played him pretty much for 90 minutes in every single match throughout the whole of his tenure since he got caught up at Barca. Maybe 1 or 2 matches he hasn't, but ultimately he's got a lot more minutes than, let's face it, you go back to Xavi's 5th or 7th game, Ferran didn't really deserve to play that much, because his performance and his output on the pitch wasn't correlating to having someone like Adama or Dembele sitting on the bench at the time. I can't remember who it was, but because he stuck with him, He showed the player that I trust you. You are my signing. You are my priority. I mean, 55 million euros is a lot of money, especially in today's post-pandemic or during pandemic, depending where you are in the world times. And he stuck by him. He wasn't fit. He didn't understand the Barca system too well, but perseverance, constancy, and trust, and sort of personalized feedback after every match with Xavi's coaching staff has really enabled him to grow. He had one of the matches in which he basically was misfiring totally, ended up crying at the end of the game. But
Napoli.
that's all.
Napoli leg,
yeah. So that is all part of growing up. And we've talked about it. I mean, this is how long we've done the podcast for. We used to talk about Bojan, and we used to talk about players that were eaten alive by the run in the Camp Nou that never really got over it. And with Ferran, I could hear it in one of those matches already starting. But, if there's a penalty, he goes there, gets the ball, and he's the one taking it. If there's a free kick, he's around it to take it as well. And he's got the personality, he's got the trust. And let's just face it, the guy scored goals wherever he's been. Scored goals for Valencia, scored goals in England with City, scores a lot of goals with Spain, and he's going to score goals for Barca. So it was just a matter of time because, players are at this level, if they get 10 chances, they may score 6, 5, 4 of them, and the rate in which he was misfiring was just not going to continue. I don't know who it was. Probably was Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, one of the two. Is just the more shots you miss, the more shots you should take because it will eventually come your way. You're the NBA expert. I'm sure you know that better than me.
I mean, was it Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, that said that?
I've never heard of the guy, but that's probably him.
You miss all the shots you don't take or something like that. I think that's the one. I think that was Wayne Gretzky, actually, the hockey player.
Well, I got into the internet. That could be Mozart or someone. It really doesn't matter who it is. The internet tells you different people. But if he continues to persevere and take shots, and those goals are just gonna drop because the guy has quality, understands movement, and he's got the respect of the coach, and by extension, all of his teammates. So good times.